In the US, the press enjoys considerable influence in political and public affairs. The US model is particularly important. It represents the ultimate in terms of media freedoms and prerogatives. In March last year, the US State Department explained in an aid memoir to the Singapore Ministry of Foreign Affairs that it deplored the Singapore government's action to restrict the sale of the Asian Wall Street Journal, despite the fact that the journal had refused to publish the Singapore government's reply to an inaccurate report. It was because Americans believed, says the State Department aid memoir, the press should be free to publish or not to publish what it chooses, however irresponsible or biased its actions may seem to be. The logic is that where the media are free, the marketplace of ideas sorts out the irresponsible from the responsible and rewards the latter. I want to point out that the US model is not a universal standard. The media in other countries play different roles. These roles have grown out of their different historical experiences, their political systems, and their national temperaments. They represent equally valid functions which the press fulfills in different environments. A more appropriate model for the Singapore media would be the BBC World Service, which reports events impartially, but provides an interpretation from a definite perspective. In the BBC's case, the point of view of Western liberalism. BBC broadcasts in Singapore on FM 24 hours daily. It was a service meant for the British community, including their troops stationed in Singapore. When they departed in 1971, I personally asked them to continue it as a service to Singaporeans. Another model is the Japanese media. They also stay out of a partisan role in active politics. And they go beyond plain reporting to shape public opinion by helping build up a national consensus on important issues. Now, Singapore's history. It was a British colony. It has no history of a freewheeling, rambunctious press. In fact, if the British did not have press laws which they invoked to prevent the Chinese language newspapers in Singapore from crusading for the Malayan Communist Party in the 1950s and 60s, the Malayan Communist Party would have succeeded in doing to Singapore and Malaya what the Chinese Communist Party has done to China. Singapore's experience has made Singaporeans chary, even suspicious, of any newspaper crusading for causes or policies which people feel should be left to those who are openly in the political arena. When the marketplace contest of ideas has been practiced in many newly independent countries, it has ended in less than happy results. This happened in Sri Lanka and India. Both are heterogeneous, multiracial societies. In both, there are intense racial and regional disagreements on important emotional issues such as race, language, and culture. In both, a plethora of media propound divergent and incompatible policies, mobilizing sectional constituencies and arousing emotions. In both, the result has been confusion and dissension rather than enlightenment and consensus. Similarly, in the Philippines, before martial law, it was an Asian version of the United States system. The Philippines press enjoyed all the freedoms, but they failed the Filipino people. A wildly partisan press helped Filipino politicians to flood the marketplace of ideas with junk and confuse and befuddle the people so that they could not see what their vital interests were in a developing country. And because basic issues like economic growth and an equitable distribution were seldom discussed and never tackled, the democratic system malfunctioned and President Marcos was able to declare martial law. Fortunately, a miraculous demonstration of people's power in February 1986 saved the country from impending disaster. Thus, whilst the US model of the press is good for the United States, as a universal standard, its applicability has not been proven. Singapore's case is unique, even amongst countries with colonial backgrounds. We do not have one press, but four major ones in four different languages, catering to four different segments of the population. In Chinese, the majority, Malay, Tamil, and English, which is the language of a small, educated British subject class. Each has different key values and worldviews. In the past, the English press took the standpoint of the colonial government. The Chinese press promoted Chinese language, culture, and chauvinism, looking to China for inspiration. The Malay press agitated for Malay rights and privileges and promoted Malay nationalism, identifying itself with the Malay Muslim communities of Malaysia and Indonesia. The Tamil press maintained ties of the local Tamil community with the mother country, Tamil Nadu, in India. Now imagine an island 1/5 the size of Rhode Island, 1/5 the size of Rhode Island, just over 200 square miles, inhabited by 2.5 million people, with over half its adults, first generation immigrants, people born in China, in India, in Sri Lanka, Bangladesh, Pakistan, Indonesia, and the rest of the archipelago. 75% are Chinese from 7 major clan and dialect groups, springing from South and Southeastern China. 15% Malays and Indonesians from the archipelago, 10% Indians, Pakistanis, Bangladeshis, Sri Lankans, Burmese, and Eurasians. We have never been one community. For decades, we coexisted in separate segments of the island, demarcated by the British for disparate immigrant groups. From these unpromising beginnings, we have had to try to build one nation. But the melting pot was not an option. We have been independent for less than 23 years. Parents are determined to remain the different kinds of Asians they are, and to keep their children that way. We cannot obliterate cultural and religious distinctions between the racial groups. We cannot even try to remove the language differences. Yet we have had to create enough shared values and a single national identity. And it has taken the government many years to get the different races intermingled into new towns as we resettled the population. Gradually, we hope to reconcile these centrifugal trends and to bring the press in the different languages closer together, approximating, however inadequately, one national view.